Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Philosophy of Fitness podcast, episode number 72. My name is Haley. I'm going to be your host today, and every single day that you are tuning in, guys, I am so excited to be back. Oh my God. So let's get into it right away because there was an absolute monstrosity of a situation trying to get everything set up for this. I don't know what happened. I kind of have a suspicion that there was a solar flare a few weeks back and I had noticed it was causing a lot of other issues for my technology. So I'm wondering if maybe that was a part of it. But long story short, my usual mic setup, my usual everything setup was not working no matter what I did. I tried different cables from my computer. I tried different, dongles. You know how MacBooks have dongles where you have to use those to input a USB kind of thing. I tried multiple different times, so many different things, and nothing worked. So I was like, okay, I need a new microphone. I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. And shout out to my brother if you're watching this. He sent me this new microphone and I'm loving it so far. I'm really curious to see how you guys think it's going to sound. I'm hoping it sounds, comparable to my other microphone, which is a lot more expensive than this one, but I've had that one for almost 7 years now. So I definitely got my money's worth out of that one. But long story short, he sent me this microphone. I ordered a new dongle and it wasn't working still. And I was like, what is going on? Like, why is this not working? And I was really just at a loss. And you know what fixed it, guys? You're not going to believe it. The one thing I didn't try, restarting my computer. That was the thing that fixed it. Of all the other things I tried, I spent money on new dongles. I was like, let me download new software. I was really like trying to see like what was happening, what was going on. But long story short, we are back in action and I'm back. I am so excited. Also, if you're seeing this episode now, you're going to be seeing the new artwork for the podcast, which I'm super stoked about. And that just kind of came from me wanting to grow and evolve the brand. And I felt like shaking up the image a little bit. I mean, this podcast has been running since 2020. So actually, I should look and see. It's April 13th now. I think I started this podcast in April of 2020. So this might be close to a 2-year anniversary. I'm not really sure. I have to look into that. But long story short, I felt like switching it up and I felt like changing the imaging of it. So I hope you guys like it. You can drop me a comment over on YouTube if you're watching, or actually you're not going to see the thumbnail of this, but if you see the thumbnail of this, let me know what you think. Shoot me a message. I'd be really curious. I think it's pretty cute. I like how it came out. So yeah, guys, what a journey it's been trying to get back into action with this. I feel like in some ways it almost feels like the universe was like working against me. I'm like, why is this not working out? Like, what is happening? Sorry if you're triggered by mouth noises. I'm pretty thirsty. It's actually pretty warm in here when I don't have the fan running. I'm in Florida now, so obviously it gets pretty hot and the air conditioning's not working in my room. So love that for me. But yeah, it just felt like I had all of the odds stacked against me trying to get this back into action. And it's funny because, why is the camera like, okay. We really got to make sure that this stays where it's supposed to stay focus-wise. So, it's really funny because, it's really funny because I found myself getting into this mindset trap with all of my equipment not working, things not going according to plan, and, bumps just coming up along the way. I'm like, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening? And whenever I catch myself getting into that mindset, I'm like, ooh, Haley, stop it, cut it out. Because I truly believe, and it's something that I, really suggest to anyone, is that things don't happen to us, they happen for us. And for me, I'm trying to kind of think of this situation. I'm like, okay, well, what was this teaching me that I was coming into all of these obstacles and all of these things that were preventing me from wanting to put out content? And the more that I thought about it, the more that it started to make sense, because the past few weeks, on and off, and I've shared this, I think I shared this on the last episode, I've found myself in a creative rut and not really finding myself as inspired as I maybe once was at one point. And I think maybe part of that was the universe, forcing me to slow down and forcing me to find that spark again. Because if you think about it, if anyone that's listening to this is a creative person, if you're just in a situation where you're forcing yourself to create something, for the sake of creating it, it's going to feel inauthentic. It's going to feel forced. And inherently, there's nothing that you can do about it if you're not feeling that inner inspiration and that inner passion, that fire that you would normally feel when you're really in your flow and you're really wanting to produce something creative. And I think for me, I was just overwhelmed by like life circumstance and other things that have been going on that I was like, wow, you know what? Now that I think about it in hindsight, in the moment, it sucked. I was super frustrated that I was like, why is this not working? I just want this to work. But in hindsight, I kind of see it now as the universe forcing me to take a sacred pause. And, you know, sometimes I think life will force us to do that, especially if we've been in go mode for so long. And I'm someone I always want to deliver. I always want to put my best foot forward. I always want to be sharing and expressing myself and creating and putting things out there. And, you know, for a few weeks there, I just really didn't feel like I was creatively inspired. And you know what? Now that I'm here, I'm back in my groove, and there's a lot of other projects that I'm working on that I'm really excited about. And I think it was necessary. I think it forced me to kind of take a step back, like redoing the artwork for the podcast. That was something that came to me during this time. And just thinking about other projects that I want to do that I'm really excited to share. I don't want to speak on anything too soon, but I think a lot of you guys are going to enjoy what I'm going to be venturing into next. And I'm really excited. So yeah, I figured today I would kind of just share at least my perspective of how to get out of a rut, because I think we've all been there. And I think we all know how much it sucks to be in a rut, right? There's really no worse feeling than being uninspired, unmotivated, discouraged. Like, it sucks. I've been there so many times. And you know, it's really hard to dig yourself out of that if you're kind of just like going it alone, or you don't really know, you know, what direction you want to take and you're not feeling that inspiration. So I'm just going to share with you guys what has helped me get out of a rut. And the biggest thing is what I already mentioned, is just taking a sacred pause. Sometimes when we find ourselves in a rut, it means that we're forcing things too much or we're pushing too much. Think about it from an energetic standpoint, right? If you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling in a rut, maybe you're trying to make something happen. You're trying to force something to happen too much to the point where you're stifling it and you're not even letting it, you know, grow organically or come into fruition on its own. I think this is a place a lot of us tend to get in, especially if you're a creative person. I really do strongly feel that, where it's like if you're forcing yourself, if you're a writer, for example, like you force yourself to sit down and say, I'm going to write, I have to write 7 pages today. This needs to happen. I need to just bang this out and do it. Sure, you could get it done. And I think that's a great method sometimes. For some people that works really well, but for other people, it's really challenging to force yourself into a creative state. It sounds crazy, but sometimes the thing that you need to do is to just take a step back. And I offer that up as advice, not only to anyone watching or listening to this, but also as a reminder to myself, like, take a breather. If things feel forced, if things don't feel like they're flowing anymore, if things start to feel like a chore when they once lit you up and they once made you super passionate and excited, if they start to not feel like that anymore, then maybe what you need to do is take a step back. And that's a harsh pill to swallow. I understand that, but maybe that sacred pause is the very thing that's keeping you where you are now and, you know, preventing you from reaching that next level. I really do think that it can be for a lot of us, and, you know, taking time to take a step away from something. Even think about it from a relationship standpoint. You know, if things are rocky in your relationship, sometimes all you need to do is to just like take a break and have some space, reevaluate, reconsider, and then you come back to things with a fresh mind and a fresh heart. And I think that's something that's really helped me, is just allowing myself to take breaks. And if you're anything like me, then you know how hard it can be to slow down. I find it so much harder to slow down and to take a step away from things than to just keep going. And I mean that in any area of my life. With fitness, I find it harder to take rest days. With creative projects that I do, with anything that I do put out creatively, I find it a lot harder to take a step back than to just like produce content. And it's a hard balance between motivating yourself and also having the restraint and the capacity to recognize when maybe you're pushing things too much. I think even in general in life, if there is anything in your life right now that you feel like you are forcing and that you feel like is an uphill battle, like you're pushing a stone up a mountain, right? If there's anything in your life that feels like that, then maybe that's your body's way of letting you know that it's not in alignment, or at least it's not in alignment at this point in time, right? I think our bodies know things before we do. So if you feel that internally, take a break. It may not be possible in every situation if you're in a career per se, or, something where it's not necessarily possible to fully take a step back, but understand that maybe that burnout or that stuck feeling is your body's signal to you that something is not working. There's a disconnect somewhere, because you wouldn't be feeling that if there wasn't a disconnect, right? So it's just something to consider. And I think in terms of that stuck feeling that we have, that's a huge thing that helps. The other thing that I'll also say helps is something that I posted recently on Instagram, is that I had this like epiphany shower moment quote. So I'm just going to share it with you now. What if the only reason that you're feeling stuck is because you see yourself as someone that's stuck? I'm going to say that to you one more time because I think it's really powerful. What if the only reason that you're feeling stuck is because you see yourself as someone that's stuck? That's a huge shift to make internally. And the other thing that I want to suggest and really touch on here, especially with that feeling of stuckness, is the power of our perspective, right? Your internal dialogue, your view of yourself, the way that you speak to yourself is what's creating the fabric of your reality. And whatever's going on internally is going to be reflected in the external. So if you're someone that's viewing yourself as stuck, and you say that every single day, you're like, oh, well, I'm stuck. I'm not feeling inspired. I'm really in a stagnant place right now. You're reiterating that to your subconscious mind, and your mind is always listening, right? And it's always picking up on what you're feeling too. So if you're constantly feeling in that energy of stuckness, you're actually perpetuating that cycle for yourself. It's like what I've said before many times, is be careful what you attach to the phrase I am, because that is creating your reality. I am, the two most powerful words in the universe. There's a lot of people that have looked into this too. If you guys know the law of attraction, I'm sure you're familiar with that. The Secret, that documentary is a great place. Esther Hicks' work, really showcases that, the power of the words I am. But anyways, I digress. So whatever you're attaching to that is creating your reality. So if you're sitting there every morning and you're telling yourself, I'm stuck, guess what? So it shall be. That's how it works. Your subconscious mind, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, is always listening. It's always picking up on that. So be mindful of that. Think about your perspective in a situation. Rather than viewing yourself as someone that's stuck, which I think is a really negative mindset to have, and I think that's something that prevents you from reaching your goals, try to see if you could flip it around. And this isn't to get confused with toxic positivity or, just flat out denial, because that's a very different thing. You can say, okay, this is here now. Address it. Allow it to be there. That's the other thing. And I see so many people, talking about manifestation and law of attraction that kind of slip into this toxic positivity mindset of like, just, say I'm grateful and I'm feeling great, and then life is going to be awesome. And that's not always going to work, right? And that's also just not realistic. I think if you're someone that's feeling stuck, you have to, any negative emotion, quote unquote negative emotion, because, not every emotion is necessarily negative. It's how we perceive it. But if anyone is feeling stuck, then, acknowledge it. It's okay to acknowledge the fact that you're feeling something. And this kind of coincides with the notion of shadow work and how important that is. But say, you know what? I'm feeling this now. I'm feeling stuck now. This is here. This is something that I'm experiencing. What can I do moving forward to deal with this? And what can I do moving forward to integrate this emotion, but to also move past it and to, elevate? And so if you look at things through that lens of awareness, like accept the fact that it's there, and also give yourself space. Like, this is my biggest suggestion would be for anyone else out there that's feeling like they're in a rut, or they're feeling, stuck, or I don't know, anything like that. Say, you know what, this is here now. I'm feeling this. I acknowledge that this is here. I'm going to just allow myself to take a sacred pause and to embrace this stuckness, because maybe that's the very thing that I need to take me to the next level. I would almost be willing to bet you that if you're feeling stuck, it also might just be a sign from the universe that it's time for you to reevaluate something, or it's the universe's way of nudging you to look inward and to dive inward a little bit more about maybe something else that's could fire up a passion within you, or something else that you could be giving more of your energy to. I really do believe everything happens for a reason in that way. So if you're feeling that, understand it's totally okay to acknowledge that it's there. And then your power comes in with your choice of how you respond to that feeling and to that self-deemed situation of stuckness. So being stuck sucks. I get it. And it will pass. That's the other thing too. Like, this too shall pass. I know it's cheesy. I know it's corny. But think about it. You have survived 100% of your worst days, and you've survived 100% of your best days too, because let's face it, you've survived every day that has led you up until here. And things that you thought would never end, ended. Things that you thought would go on forever, they stopped eventually, and they would heal eventually, and you move on from them eventually. The same thing goes for if you're feeling stuck in life. And I think it's important for us to remember that life ebbs and flows. There's no constant. Everything is changing. Life itself is ever changing. So how can we expect to exist in the same state for all the time? Man, that would be sick if I felt high vibe all the time. That would be so awesome, but it's not realistic, and that's not how life works. Life is ebbs and flows. But the other thing too is that being stuck or feeling a negative emotion or being in a low rut just makes you appreciate when you feel good that much more. And I actually, when I first moved here, I was kind of struggling. It was just a lot of stress, and it was a crazy time. And I actually remember, there's been a few points in the past few months that I've felt stuck, and I've felt kind of not my best, like not my most optimal self. And I remember I'm looking down at my journal, it's on the floor, but I had written a couple times in there, I am so grateful now for how good it feels to not be stuck anymore, or to not feel down anymore. Like, when you get out of that rut, you're going to have so much more appreciation for how good it feels to just be at your natural set point. I know it sounds crazy, but that's with any emotion in life, because if you were to think about it, if you were high vibe all the time, if you felt euphoria, joy every single moment of every single day, you wouldn't really be able to appreciate to a full capacity how good it feels to feel good. And I think sometimes these stuck moments or these low moments are reminders to us of how good it feels to just feel good and to feel inspired and to feel like ourselves, to feel creative, to feel fired up, to feel passionate. The list goes on. So to anyone out there listening and watching, don't forget to be kind to yourself. It's okay. It is okay to be stuck, and it's okay to feel like shit in that moment. But remember, you always have the perspective of how you respond to that situation. So those are my words on, stuckness in general. And I certainly hope that you guys found that helpful. But yeah, I am out of my stuck rut now. Thank God. I'm just stuck rut. I kind of like that phrase. Yeah, I'm out of it now. Thank God. It was really like not a fun place to be in, but sometimes you gotta just embrace what life is throwing at you and recognize that it'll pass. Other things that have helped me too, I'll just throw in here really quick. If you're feeling stuck, have that structured routine and be disciplined with it. For me, meditation, journaling, exercising, eating healthy, those are things that I know are gonna elevate me vibrationally and energetically and are gonna keep me in check. And, just give yourself some discipline in that regard of making sure you're doing the things that are going to keep you on track, because the last thing you would want is to totally fall out of a routine and let that stuck energy win. So I certainly hope that helped you guys. I know this is a short episode today, but I also just want to let you know before I go that I am planning on asking on some really awesome people, and I'm so excited. I haven't invited them yet, but I'm really hoping they're going to say yes, because I think you guys are going to love the kinds of conversations that I'm looking to have with some amazing individuals. So be on the lookout for that. This podcast is rebranded. I've got this set up now. Let me know if you like how this sounds, if you like how this looks, if you're watching on YouTube. I'm not really sure how to feel about this mic stand because it kind kind of like moves around a little bit. But yeah, I certainly hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode. I love you so much. Thank you for your support. If you aren't subscribed already on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, etc., please hit the subscribe button, leave a review. It means the absolute world to me and it helps out the show tremendously. And also, if you haven't subscribed on YouTube yet, be sure to do that as well so you don't miss out on other future videos. But that is it, my loves. I'm sending you so much health, wealth, success, happiness, abundance, and joy, and getting out of your stuck rut. And I will see you next time. Bye.